intense. I was away from my family for a month. My kids were younger. Probably they were 6 and 3. That was very hard for me to be away from them. I came home on weekends, but it was definitely a life-altering case to be involved with, and I have to say, everybody. I mean, no one's really going to say it, but I hope maybe they will. Like Judge Jolly, she just talked about the appeals. I mean, you've got to have a lawyer that's doing the appeals, that knows everything you did, that is solid on the appellate law, to be able to argue to those 5th DCA judges and the Supreme Court judges to make sure your conviction stands. I mean, she's an expert in that area. Liz Blackburn, who's doing family law in Volusia County, she's board certified in family law. No one knows family law better than she does. No one does. And that's who you got serving on the family. That's what you got, the kind of prosecutor and lawyer that Chris was. Terry Perkins doesn't need to work. I don't know, this is probably it's probably not appropriate. I'm not supposed to say that, but I mean, he's made more money in civil practice than I can even dream of counting. Okay, so he doesn't need to work. And he's decided to sit on the bench and work every day and work hard to do this. Steve Smith, I mean, you heard the kind of things he was doing. And you know, I mean, I don't have to say anything about Judge Stinn. You know her. You know how hardworking she is. You know what a commitment she gives you. So I mean, nobody wants to really say anything about themselves. It's kind of awkward to say, but I want you to know the people that you got here and take the time to talk to us and talk to them afterwards to really know. You've got some outstanding people that want to serve you. And
Thank you, Judge. I kind of stole my thunder a little bit with Judge Blackburn because I was going to ask her about this. My crack research team came up again and says you were appointed by the president of the Florida Bar Family Law Rules Committee as chair. You chaired the committee responsible for a complete revision of the procedural rules governing all family law proceedings that was approved by the Florida Supreme Court last year. Is that true?
It is true.
I'm just kidding, Judge. It was a joke.
It is true. It's not nearly as exciting or interesting as the murder and mayhem you have just been hearing about. But one of the things I got to do, I served for 6 years. I was appointed, and one of those years I served as chair, and I got to work with some of the best and brightest family lawyers in the entire state of Florida, and they are an incredible group of people that I learned more than I could ever learn in my own practice, and made me a much better lawyer and hopefully a better judge. But during that time period, we were working in part with a project from the Supreme Court to completely revise the family law rules that existed until last year and create a whole separate rule set. Part of our goal was to try to make them more user-friendly. We have one of the highest percentage of pro se litigants or self-represented litigants in family courts. These are people who can't afford lawyers or don't want to hire a lawyer. They represent themselves. They have no legal training. They don't know what they're doing. And we've got all sorts of procedure rules that have to be followed on when things need to be filed and when you can bring a child to court to testify and whether you can appear by phone for certain hearings and all the rules that govern how we conduct our business every day in a courtroom. And it was a huge project, had a great group of lawyers that I worked with. We put together a petition that got filed with the Supreme Court the year before last. And last year, just about a week ago, they actually on my birthday, it was a nice birthday present, they approved the whole new revised set of family law rules. So I was very proud to be part of that and had a great group of people working with that impacts how we practice throughout the state of Florida.
Thank you, Judge Blackburn. Now, I know we're kind of going along here, so I don't want to go too much further, just because the whole idea is for these judges to meet you and for you to ask some questions. I have received some by email, and if you have some questions, you want to pass them over this way, that would be great. I'll be more than happy to take them, but I did get some by email. So this question's pretty interesting, and it goes with what you just talked about, Judge Blackburn. What is pro se? What is it? What does it mean? Is there an increase in what pro se litigants, I guess? Is that the correct term? I guess there is. And is there an increase in the courts? And anybody can take, maybe Judge Perkins, how about you? Please, Your Honor.
Okay. In the division I'm in now, which is a criminal division, there are hardly any pro se litigants. Everybody's lawyered up. Everybody's got a lawyer, either the public defender or private lawyer on the defense side, and obviously the state attorney's side. So everybody's lawyered up. Every once in a while, someone will represent themselves, but they've got to go through all kind of steps to do that. So I don't see that on a regular basis. What we are seeing, though, as a branch, is that we're getting more and more pro se litigants in family law matters and in civil matters. One of the disadvantages to being a chief judge is that you have to report to and regularly meet with the Chief Justice of the Florida Supreme Court, which I had an opportunity to do for 4 years. The reason I say that's a disadvantage is because when he's looking for somebody to help him with a pet project, you're the first on his list. And his pet project was what's called the Access to Justice Commission. And so I was appointed by him to that commission 2 years ago. And the job of that commission is to take a look at the entire court system and figure out ways that we can improve access for all of our citizens. Those that want to hire a lawyer, they ought to know how to hire a lawyer and who and how lawyers are qualified. Those that don't want to hire a lawyer, they ought to know what the process is. We're unwinding in the court system. It's a very exciting time, in all candor, in the court system. We're unwinding traditions that have existed for literally centuries. I mean, for the first time in my professional life, we did away with a large amount of the paper that we've been using in the court system. I don't want to say we're paperless, because we're not exactly paperless yet.
I have to have something.
But we're a long way towards doing that. If you're a litigant, if you're an attorney in the Seventh Circuit, I'm proud to say that you can go on your computer from home, you can go on your smartphone here, or in your office, and you can look up your case, and you can find out what's filed and what's not, when the judges rule, when it's not. We schedule now online. The attorney looks at your schedule. There's no, when are we going to find this judge? He sees my entire schedule. He knows when I'm going to the dentist. He knows everything. And they can schedule it. So what we're seeing is we're trying to make, and we are making, the court system much more responsive to the citizens, much easier to navigate, and providing maybe a little voice to the pro se litigants. Now, that being said, you're never going to get pro se litigants to the point that they're going to be able to match skill for skill with trial lawyers that have practiced their entire lifetime to develop those skills. But what we are trying to do is to make sure that everybody gets a fair shake. They have an opportunity to present their case, have an opportunity to be heard by the court, and then to make a ruling on that basis. So we're trying. It's not a perfect system, but we're trying.
Thank you, Judge. Got this question, so bear with me. How does one become, you have 42 judges, 27, is that correct?
27 circuit,
15. How does one become a chief judge? And do you like run? Is that okay to ask that?
Yes, absolutely. The easy answer to that is you are elected. I was elected by 42 judges in the Seventh Circuit to serve as chief judge, not once, but for 2 terms. It was a high honor, and it's one of the biggest accomplishments of my career, I can say. Now, the reason that there's some chuckling that's around here is we have some unusual traditions in the Seventh Circuit. First, you need to know that as chief judge, you don't get paid a dime more, not a penny. And as chief judge, you don't get any additional time off, or all this time you're driving to Tallahassee to meet with the chief justice and all that stuff. You don't get paid any more for that. And then the other part of it is, one of our traditions here in the Seventh Circuit that's not shared by many other circuits is that while you're chief judge, you maintain a full docket. So while I was chief judge, I maintained a criminal docket, full criminal. Actually, I started off in civil and transferred myself to a criminal docket because I wanted to be challenged by a criminal docket. So it's a challenging job, but it can be rewarding in so many ways. When I started as chief judge, when you walked into a courtroom, you saw a stack of files this big, paper files. We had judges like Judge Hutchison. I have to say Judge Hammond a little bit too, even though he was one of my favorites, that were absolute professionals at finding things in a paper file. You could say, we're arguing our motion for summary judgment, Judge Hammond. Boom, he had it open. Not just open, but to the right page. He was just that good at it. And I had to say to my fellow colleagues and judges, I appreciate all of this. You do such a good job. Could you hand me that file? Here's your computer screen. Have a nice day. And it literally, it started just like that. One day we had paper files. The next day we had computers, and we've been working on it ever since. It's a job that we haven't finished yet. Every one of my colleagues, I've been so proud of my colleagues. Everyone was saying, they'll never do this. They'll never look at it. They're cheap. They'll be looking at paper files on it. None of that. All of my colleagues have been, not only do I like this technology, I want more. I want to do it faster. I want to look at it. So we can do things we never thought we could do before. And that was one of my best accomplishments as chief judge. One final thing, and I'll shut up. My biggest accomplishment as chief judge was I had the opportunity in a time of tremendous turnover in our Seventh Circuit to meet and place judges and try to determine, and this is something you have to do yourself. There's no tea leaves or any way that I could determine to figure out where you put Judge France. Where do you put Judge Blackburn? I mean, you know what their background is, but you got to make sure that it's not a square fit, that, a square peg in a round hole, etc. You got to give that a lot of thought. And my biggest accomplishment was, by and large, not only did they fit and do well, they excelled. And I mean excelled beyond my fondest wishes in that regard. And that's not me, that's them. And it made my job so much easier, and it was such a great sense of accomplishment for me.
Thank you, Judge. Here's a question hot off the press. What are the requirements to become a guardian ad litem?
A guardian ad litem is a volunteer. There's a guardian ad litem program, and we have one in the Seventh Circuit. You do a training, and it's everyday citizens, and they are trained, and their job is to report to the court what they believe is in the best interest of the children. That's their job. So the eyes and ears for a dependency judge is the guardian ad litem volunteer. They go through an extensive training process, and then the classes, and then they actually have a guardian ad litem that kind of trains them when they do home visits. They visit children when they're on visitations with their family, and they provide reports through the guardian ad litem attorney's office to the court that are filed, and that's what we read. And it tells us, our mom and dad visiting, does the child need braces? Does the child need speech therapy? Their best interest volunteers in the community, they are invaluable. Their website provides for all the information on training and what is required of it, but it can be anyone. And I was joking with that's what I want to do when I grow up, is be a guardian ad litem volunteer, to be out there with the children. So the state website is excellent on it. I don't know exactly how long the training is. Do you know how long it is? But I have guardian ad litem trainees now in court with me, and they're getting ready to go off on their own and have their own children. But they are such stewards to our community. You don't see them, you don't know who they are, but they are in
Maybe
court.
we do.
Maybe
Anybody
you are.
here?
Anybody guardian ad litem
Guardian ad
volunteer?
litem here?
And
If you're not, please do
think
it.
about it.
Please
And
do it.
because they provide for us things that we won't know and can tell us how these children, like I've said, how they need braces or speech therapy or, testing for autism, all of those things, that's their job, is best interests. And we rely on them incredibly to be able to kind of get an idea of how the child is doing and what their best interests are through them. So it's
And
an
I
incredible
wanna add-
program.
I want to add one point to that. I was sat in the dependency court when I first came, and so I'd swear in the new guardians. And if you don't know, the guardian ad litem is the only person that their responsibility is to that child. Everybody else is assigned to a party. The mom's attorney, the dad's attorney, DCF is representing, DCF, the lawyers, the case managers, all that. So they all have an interest for a person that they're responsible for representing. So that's who you're hearing from. Unless you're blessed enough to have a guardian ad litem that you can appoint to that child. And then that guardian, at least when I was sitting in dependency, that's who I'm listening to. That's who my ears are perking up the most, because they don't have, the only person they are focused on is that child. They're not torn by anything else. What is the best interest of the child? I don't know if that's how, I think you would agree that in family, that's what you're wanting. And we don't have enough guardians. I mean, you can't get enough guardian ad litems. And to me, it's the crux of dependency court, is having those guardian ad litems.
And it's tough work. It really is tough work. It's very emotionally challenging. The guardians, they come to court with the kids. They're the ones standing up. They come in. Every time I call a case, they come up to the front of the courtroom. They give me a report. Sometimes they're at odds with the parents. Sometimes the visit doesn't go well. And they've got to come in and really talk about it. They'll, right in front of the parent, tell me about things that have happened in their presence. And it's not easy. And they're wonderful people. And truly, if anyone has any thought about it, please do it. We've got a great program here in Flagler County. We could always use more. Alicia Washington is the local attorney. She's assigned, she kind of represents the guardian ad litems from the attorney perspective. And then we have all the volunteers. So highly encouraged.
Just to show you that there's so many pieces to the puzzle in a courthouse, and they're a huge part of what we do, and there's different pieces in different divisions. You use parenting coordinators and family lawyers. There's so many people that have so many roles, but these are volunteers, and they really are our eyes and ears for our children.
Thank you, Judge. Just so you know, just because these judges don't reside here, doesn't mean you don't vote for them. You do vote for them. They are circuit judges. Yes? And so I wanted to clarify that. You really need to know that, because we don't have too many opportunities to see a circuit judge, because they will fill in for all kinds of reasons, absences, sicknesses, vacations, and so on. And sometimes you just don't get posted, well, Judge so-and-so is coming from the land of Volusia, they're coming in here, and chances are you never get a chance to see them unless you go to the courtroom. And I've had the pleasure of being in a lot of courtrooms, and it doesn't sound good. Now, I believe the reason I'm there, because I want to see what the judge's demeanor is, what their temperament is, and how they treat us. And I can tell you, by going to these courtrooms, you see that very thing play out every day. And I can just say from a personal experience that I've been to almost all their courthouses, and I sit in the back usually, and I just observe. Now, I have my own opinions. I'm not here to sway you one way or the other, but sometimes you need to go to court when you're not a litigant. That's how you learn. Because there's a vacuum, I think, when it comes to judiciary. No offense to the judges over here, and that's we don't know. And I want you all to know we are part of history here tonight. I don't ever recall 7 judges being in Flagler County, coming to here, coming to meet the citizens of Flagler County just for the sole purpose of meeting it. I don't think that's ever happened. So I believe that is history. So that says something about these judges. And I can tell you unequivocally, like I said, when I asked them to come, they didn't hesitate. There were no preconditions. well, that sounds like a legal word. And they just came here. So I'm not gonna ask more questions because this part right now is the most important part, I think. But before I close, I had some questions here and I didn't get a chance to ask them all, but the judges have graciously told me that they were going to stay here. Now, tonight is the golden opportunity. You can meet and talk to the judge. Now, I really want you to do that, please, because this is a golden opportunity. You will never have an opportunity to meet 7 judges as you have tonight, ever. But before we go, I told the judges, in Flagler County, we're pretty hospitable. So if you wouldn't mind, would you please give them an applause for being here tonight? Okay, I've been practicing this for like a week. You may approach the table. Thank you very much and God bless you.